Yu Menglong, a young actor known for his gentleness, discipline, and quiet professionalism, is gone. No public farewell. No transparent investigation. No definitive answers. Only fragments remain. Screenshots circulating in private messaging groups. Whispers of encrypted platforms. Accounts that appear briefly, then vanish without explanation. In the case of Yu Menglong, absence itself has become the loudest evidence. On the surface, his death was presented as a tragic but isolated incident. Another loss in an industry already familiar with exhaustion and pressure. Yet almost immediately, inconsistencies began to surface. According to multiple online accounts, images allegedly originating from Telegram groups and references to the dark web started to circulate, suggesting that what happened to Yu Menglong may not have been sudden nor accidental. These claims, impossible to verify independently, did not bring clarity. Instead, they deepened unease. Yu Menglong was not known as a rebel. He was described by colleagues as polite, reserved, and deeply attached to his work. He avoided scandals, rarely complained publicly, and maintained a low profile despite increasing recognition. To many observers, this made the silence surrounding his death even more unsettling. When a controversial figure disappears, speculation feels predictable. When someone described as harmless does, the questions feel unavoidable. What disturbed the public most was not a single allegation, but the pattern that followed. Mentions of private groups where extreme content was allegedly shared for payment. Claims that certain conversations referred to a well-known public figure only after viewers recognized his identity. Phrases stripped of context, screenshots without sources, and testimonies attributed to unnamed individuals living outside China. None of it formed a complete picture. Together, however, they suggested something darker than a personal tragedy. At the same time, voices that attempted to question the official narrative began to disappear. Bloggers, commentators, legal observers. Accounts went silent, videos were deleted, and timelines were erased. According to archived screenshots shared by netizens, some of these individuals acknowledged their own disappearance with bitter irony, describing themselves as suddenly invisible. Whether coincidence or coordination, the effect was the same. The flow of information narrowed. Adding another layer of emotional weight was the story of Yu Menglong's two dogs, animals he was known to protect fiercely. Audio recordings allegedly captured his voice in distress, calling out one of them by name. Rumors suggested the dogs may have died before he did. No confirmation followed. Only a brief, dismissive statement from an industry insider claiming that the dog is fine, without evidence, followed by the removal of her social media account. None of these elements, on their own, constitute proof. What they reveal instead is a climate of fear, silence, and narrative control. A space where questions are treated as threats, and reputation can be dismantled as efficiently as a digital file. But behind the glamour and the excuses, what mechanisms are really driving this crisis? We will analyze every detail, from the initial mistakes to the irreversible damage, to see how the entertainment world works and how an icon is redefined. If this story resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so that our future investigations can continue to illuminate the truths that often remain hidden behind the entertainment industry's brightest lights. Share this video across every platform where voices gather, because collective awareness is the only force capable of demanding accountability. Let us stand together, not in anger, but in clarity and compassion, to ensure that what happened to Yu Menglong is never repeated. Let us raise our voices so that silence can no longer swallow the struggles of those who give so much of themselves to the world. To understand why the death of Yu Menglong provoked such extreme fear and speculation, it is necessary to examine not only the allegations themselves, but the environment in which they emerged. What unsettled the public was not a single accusation, but the convergence of multiple narratives pointing toward a system that operates beyond ordinary visibility. According to an email reportedly sent to commentator Li Muyan by a Chinese acquaintance living overseas, Yu Menglong was not simply killed, but tortured, and the act was allegedly broadcast in real time within a closed Telegram group and mirrored on the dark web. The source claimed that this group catered to buyers with abnormal interests, individuals who paid to access violent content. These assertions, while impossible to independently verify, followed a familiar pattern seen in other alleged underground digital economies, where anonymity, encryption, and financial incentives intersect. The most disturbing element of this account was not the existence of such groups, but the claim that Yu Menglong was initially unrecognized by viewers. According to the testimony, it was only after someone searched his image online that participants realized the victim was a public figure. This moment, described as a shift in awareness, reframed the event from anonymous cruelty to something far more dangerous: the exploitation of celebrity status as an added layer of value. In this context, fame does not protect. It amplifies risk. Screenshots circulated online appeared to support fragments of these claims. In one alleged exchange, a comment stated that "he can be eaten too," a phrase interpreted by the source not as literal cannibalism, but as symbolic language commonly used in certain circles to describe extreme abuse and total domination. The ambiguity of such language is part of what makes these claims so difficult to confront. They exist in a gray zone where meaning is implied rather than stated, allowing plausible deniability while maintaining psychological impact. After the deaths of Yu Menglong and another individual, Xiaoren Lang, a separate incident intensified suspicion. A director known online as Chen Qing Song, also called Red Hair, reportedly posted the phrase "so delicious" on Waveview. No direct connection was established. Yet within the context of the circulating narratives, the timing of the comment fueled public anxiety. Even without confirmation, such remarks took on symbolic weight, functioning as signals rather than statements. Additional fear emerged from private conversations shared by netizens. One screenshot allegedly showed a message stating, "Those demons ate Yu Menglong's flesh." When questioned, the sender confirmed that Yu Menglong was the person referenced and claimed that high-resolution images of his body had appeared on the dark web. In the exchange, when asked to deny the claim, the sender responded, "I hope it is not true," followed by an assertion that the body was found around midnight. These exchanges did not provide evidence. What they provided was emotional escalation. As rumors spread that Yu Menglong's body was not intact when discovered, public discourse shifted from shock to existential questioning. How could such cruelty exist? One writer attributed this brutality to what he described as a dehumanizing system, referring to the Chinese communist regime as something that strips individuals of empathy and transforms ordinary people into instruments of harm. He used the phrase "little red demons" to describe those who, in his view, had crossed a moral threshold beyond recovery. This commentary extended beyond Yu Menglong. It framed his death as a symptom rather than an exception. The writer warned young people against joining party-affiliated organizations, arguing that alignment with such structures risks moral erosion and personal destruction. Whether one accepts this ideological framing or not, it reflected a growing belief among viewers that the case could not be understood in isolation. Within this narrative, Yu Menglong emerges not as a reckless figure who attracted danger, but as a passive target within a rigid hierarchy. He was described consistently as obedient, non-confrontational, and unwilling to engage in industry practices often referred to as hidden rules. In a system where compliance is currency, such traits may become liabilities. What lies at the root of this case, therefore, is not a single crime, but a convergence of power imbalance, contractual control, and informational suppression. The allegations surrounding Telegram and the dark web serve as the most extreme expression of this imbalance, but the deeper issue is structural. When individuals are owned contractually, monitored socially, and silenced digitally, violence does not need to be visible to be effective. Whether every claim is true is, in some ways, secondary to the environment that allowed them to be believed. Fear flourishes where transparency is absent. And in the case of Yu Menglong, the absence has become the defining feature of the story. If the first wave of fear surrounding Yu Menglong's death was born in whispers, the second wave arrived as a flood. Once the allegations reached public platforms, the story did not stabilize. It fragmented, multiplied, and intensified, driven by screenshots, disappearing accounts, and a rapidly polarizing audience. The immediate impact was informational chaos. Messages attributed to private conversations began circulating widely, each more alarming than the last. Among them was a screenshot in which an unidentified individual allegedly stated, "Those demons ate Yu Menglong's flesh." When pressed for clarification, the speaker reportedly confirmed Yu Menglong as the subject and claimed to have seen images of his body on the dark web. The language was extreme, the claims unverifiable, yet their emotional effect was undeniable. Fear does not require confirmation to spread. It requires repetition. Public reaction quickly divided into two dominant camps. One group accepted these claims as evidence of a hidden, violent underworld operating beyond accountability. For these viewers, the absence of official transparency reinforced suspicion. The other group dismissed the entire narrative as conspiracy, arguing that anonymous screenshots and unnamed sources could not outweigh official statements. This division did not weaken the story. It strengthened it. Controversy kept attention alive. As debate escalated, attention shifted from what was being said to who was being silenced. Several individuals who had questioned the official version of events or highlighted inconsistencies reportedly disappeared from social media. A vlogger who first raised doubts about the case, a lawyer neighbor who posted a video challenging the timeline, and a writer who outlined multiple suspicious points all saw their accounts deleted or rendered inactive. According to archived posts, one of them responded with bitter sarcasm, writing that the platform had granted him the privilege of being invisible. Whether coordinated or coincidental, the effect was chilling. This pattern extended beyond commentators to physical evidence. An alleged insider, described as a security guard at the building where the incident occurred, claimed that the property was managed by relatives of a suspect and that most of the guards were family members. According to this account, one guard heard unusual noises during the incident and attempted to investigate, only to be stopped by his captain. More than 1 hour allegedly passed before he was allowed to check. By then, the situation was over. This detail became central to public speculation. Why the delay? Why the silence? Further suspicion arose around surveillance footage. Elevator recordings reportedly showed only suspects leaving the building, with no data available afterward. According to the insider, all related footage was deleted by the management company. No independent verification followed. What remained was this perception of a controlled narrative, where information existed briefly before being erased. Amid this uncertainty, an emotionally charged subplot emerged: the fate of Yu Menglong's two dogs, Fully and Wood 1. Audio clips allegedly captured Yu crying, calling out Fully, and asking whether they truly could not stay together anymore. For fans, this recording transformed abstract allegations into personal grief. Yu was no longer just a victim of a system. He was a man losing the last beings he trusted. Rumors soon circulated that the dogs had died before Yu himself. One version claimed that Fully was killed by individuals who entered Yu's home and that Yu was subsequently abused. The details were graphic, disturbing, and unconfirmed. Yet they spread rapidly, fueled by emotional identification rather than factual certainty. At this point, a single statement intensified public anger. A woman named Wang Yusin, posting from Beijing, wrote a brief message: "The dog is fine." She claimed the animal had been adopted, but refused to provide further details. When netizens asked for photographic proof, she responded mockingly, writing, "So funny." Shortly afterward, she posted several hostile updates, encouraging followers to report or attack those questioning her. Soon after, her account disappeared. According to public records and online speculation, Wang Yusin held a senior position within Tianyu Entertainment and maintained close relationships with individuals linked to Yu Menglong's professional circle. While no evidence directly connected her to wrongdoing, her behavior became symbolic of the broader issue. In moments of crisis, tone matters. Dismissiveness breeds distrust. By this stage, the media avalanche was complete. The story was no longer only about Yu Menglong's death. It was about who controlled information, who was allowed to speak, and who vanished when they did. Each deleted account, each missing video, and each evasive statement added weight to the belief that reputation could be dismantled as efficiently as evidence. In such an environment, truth becomes secondary to power. When information is filtered selectively and fear discourages inquiry, narratives harden into suspicion. The public may never know which details were real and which were distorted. But the damage was already done. Yu Menglong's image, like his voice, was being reshaped in absence. The story of Yu Menglong reached its emotional and structural climax not through a single revelation, but through the slow exposure of a system that left him with no visible escape. At the center of this realization stood one figure who tried, repeatedly and unsuccessfully, to change his fate: Yang Mi. After Yu Menglong's death, Yang Mi posted a short message that immediately drew attention. "Fourth brother, may you find peace in the next world." To the public, it appeared simple and restrained. Within the industry, however, it carried a deeper resonance. Yang Mi and Yu Menglong had grown close while working on Eternal Love, 10 Miles of Peach Blossoms. She referred to him affectionately as fourth brother, a term suggesting both personal care and senior responsibility. According to multiple accounts, Yang Mi was not merely a sympathetic colleague. As a founder of Jaywalk Studio, also known as Jaywalk Studio, she attempted several times to transfer Yu Menglong into her company. She publicly stated that artists under her management would not be required to entertain clients, participate in forced social drinking, or engage in what the industry often describes as hidden rules. Her promise was clear: a safer professional environment. These efforts failed, not because of a lack of opportunity, but because of a contractual trap. After Eternal Love achieved major success in 2017, Yang Mi Studio reportedly offered Yu Menglong a salary more than double what he was receiving at Tianyu Media. The offer included better profit sharing and guaranteed leading roles in high-level productions. In response, Tianyu issued an overnight contract extension that filled Yu Menglong's schedule through 2023, effectively blocking any transfer. At the core of this stalemate was a priority renewal clause signed years earlier, in 2013. According to reports, the clause stipulated that even after contract expiration, as long as Tianyu's renewal offer reached at least 80% of the market value, Yu Menglong was obligated to sign without conditions. This provision transformed a fixed-term agreement into an open-ended restraint. Career mobility became theoretical rather than practical. The psychological weight of this arrangement became visible over time. In 2018, while filming The Two Lives of Liang Shan, Yu Menglong suffered a rib injury due to an accident. Despite this, his management company did not actively support him publicly. Fans questioned why his injury was not even promoted as a trending topic, a common practice used to generate sympathy and protection for artists. The silence was interpreted as indifference. By 2020, Yu Menglong's distress appeared to surface directly. He posted a message that read, "Please, can you stop following me? I am really scared." At the time, many fans assumed it was promotional material for a project. In hindsight, the message reads differently. It resembles a plea rather than a performance. Another post, later deleted, showed Yu at the 7998 Art District in Beijing, wearing a shirt printed with the words, "Roll down your window and feel. Let us run away." The wind has changed. The image disappeared quickly, but the implication lingered. These fragments formed the darkest hour of the narrative. Yu Menglong appeared aware of danger, constrained by contractual power, and unable to leave. In this context, the allegations of a coordinated four-step smear campaign gained new significance. According to an alleged insider, the strategy followed a familiar pattern. First, damage the victim's personal image. Second, accuse financial misconduct through joint ventures. Third, release fabricated videos using artificial intelligence face swapping. And fourth, introduce a female accuser through public relations manipulation. The goal was not only to discredit, but to justify erasure. The final phase of this mechanism relied on social media domination. Positive narratives were amplified. Contradictory information was suppressed. Gradually, public memory was reshaped. When an individual's image becomes sufficiently distorted, their disappearance provokes less resistance. The breakthrough in this story does not arrive as justice. It arrives as recognition. Yu Menglong's case is presented not as an anomaly, but as part of a repeating pattern. Other artists were named as having faced similar pressures, including Gong Jun, whose quiet personality and avoidance of social obligations were reinterpreted by some netizens as potential vulnerability rather than safety. In its final movement, the narrative shifts from fear to responsibility. Viewers are urged not to accept silence as neutrality. A petition is promoted not as a guarantee of intervention, but as a signal. Each signature represents refusal to forget. Each question disrupts the efficiency of erasure. Yu Menglong's voice has fallen silent. The structure that confined him, however, remains. The true climax of this story is not his death, but the moment the audience understands that without sustained attention, the system will continue, searching calmly for its next victim. In the aftermath of Yu Menglong's death, what remains is not clarity, but a lingering unease that refuses to fade. There was no public reckoning, no transparent conclusion, no moment where the questions were answered definitively. Instead, there was silence. And in systems built on control, silence is rarely accidental. Yu Menglong did not leave behind a legacy of controversy. He left behind unfinished sentences, deleted posts, and a trail of emotional signals that only became legible after it was too late. His story, as it has been presented and interpreted, reflects the vulnerability of individuals operating within rigid hierarchies where power is centralized and mobility is conditional. According to the analysis surrounding his case, contracts functioned not as agreements between equals, but as instruments of long-term restraint. Public image, once damaged, became expendable. What makes this case resonate beyond a single individual is its familiarity. The pattern described does not rely on extraordinary villains or isolated cruelty. It relies on repetition. Smear first, isolate second, suppress information third, then allow time to complete the erasure. When this sequence is executed efficiently, resistance becomes fragmented and memory becomes unreliable. The emotional center of Yu Menglong's story lies not only in his own fate, but in the collateral damage surrounding it. The unanswered questions about his dogs, the strained efforts of friends who tried to intervene, and the sudden disappearance of online voices all contributed to a sense that something human was lost long before the final event occurred. By the time the public became fully aware, the outcome had already been sealed. According to reporting language used throughout this analysis, none of the allegations presented can be confirmed independently. That uncertainty is precisely the point. Systems that operate without transparency do not require belief. They require confusion. When truth is fragmented into competing narratives, accountability dissolves naturally. For the audience, the significance of this story is not found in choosing a side or accepting every claim at face value. It is found in recognizing structural risk. When industries reward obedience over safety, silence over inquiry, and control over care, individuals become interchangeable. In such environments, morality is not debated. It is managed. Yu Menglong's case has been framed by some commentators as a warning, not a prophecy, but a pattern already in motion. Other artists have been named not as confirmed victims, but as potential successors within the same framework of vulnerability. Whether those fears materialize remains unknown. What is clear is that attention itself becomes a form of protection. The closing message of this story does not promise justice. It asks for memory. Viewers are encouraged not to forget, not to normalize disappearance, and not to dismiss discomfort simply because it lacks official confirmation. A petition is mentioned not as a solution, but as a signal. Pressure does not need to succeed to matter. It only needs to exist. Yu Menglong can no longer speak. His image, however, continues to be shaped by those who remember him and those who question the conditions that surrounded him. In an environment where silence is efficient, the act of asking remains disruptive. And sometimes, disruption is the only remaining form of accountability.